I'm glad.
Let me tell you, you are lucky.
You probably saved my job.
Well, you can thank me with some chocolate or something.
I'll send some over.
For years, viewers of Pawn Stars have been captivated by the men behind the counter, Rick Harrison, Corey, and even Old Man Richard, but there's one figure whose story has remained almost entirely hidden, Rebecca. Quiet, sharp, and undeniably brilliant, she walked into the shop not as a TV star, but as a rare books expert, and instantly changed everything. What most fans didn't realize is that Rebecca wasn't just another guest who popped in to identify items. She brought knowledge, authority, and an air of authenticity that shook the dynamics of the entire show. Her presence forced everyone, staff, producers, and even viewers, to see the pawn shop in a new light. But with that respect came tension. Behind the cameras, her expertise sparked envy, whispered arguments, and unspoken rivalries that viewers would never witness. And yet, Rebecca stayed composed, calm, professional. Every episode she appeared in, she maintained an aura of quiet control, while navigating the unspoken politics of a show built on humor, chaos, and negotiation. Tonight, for the first time, the untold story emerges. The secrets, the struggles, and the choices that shaped Rebecca's life behind the cameras are finally being revealed. What fans thought they knew about her is only the surface. The truth is deeper, more complicated, and far more emotional than anyone ever imagined. Rebecca Rumney's first day at the Pawn Stars shop was meant to be ordinary. She was there to authenticate a collection of rare books, quietly verifying signatures, dates, and printings while the cameras rolled. She didn't plan to become a recurring figure on the show. Fame, attention, and drama were never part of her agenda. She just wanted to do her job and do it well. From the moment she spoke, however, it was clear she was no ordinary guest. Her knowledge was precise, authoritative, and delivered with a calm confidence that drew eyes immediately. While other experts relied on theatrics, jokes, or dramatic pauses to engage viewers, Rebecca relied on expertise, and it worked. Even Rick Harrison, a man used to commanding attention in his own shop, found himself listening intently as she explained the value and history of a rare edition of the Federalist Papers. Viewers noticed her too. Comments on social media started pouring in almost immediately. Who is this woman? She knows more than everyone else in the shop combined. She needs her own show. Fans were fascinated by her quiet intensity, her ability to command respect without raising her voice. Unlike many reality TV figures, she didn't perform for the camera, she simply existed, and that authenticity made her stand out. Behind the scenes, however, her presence created tension. The Pawn Stars cast was used to being the center of attention. Corey, Chumley, even Rick himself all knew their roles in the shop's dynamic. Introducing someone who instantly drew respect and audience focus challenged the established order. While nobody would openly admit it, her competence began shifting the balance of power. The producers noticed the spike in ratings, and the increased audience retention when she appeared. Suddenly, a guest meant to be temporary was being positioned as a recurring expert. Rebecca was cautious. She had no desire to be a TV personality. Fame wasn't her goal. Her only priority was protecting history, making sure rare items were properly identified, and maintaining the integrity of her craft. But integrity often comes with a cost. Cast members who were used to having the spotlight found themselves feeling sidelined, even threatened. Rick's admiration for her expertise created subtle friction. While he trusted her judgment completely, Corey and Chumley sometimes felt insecure about being outshined. The atmosphere behind the camera became charged, with whispered complaints and quiet frustrations building slowly over time. Rebecca navigated the tension carefully. She maintained professionalism, never raising her voice, never engaging in petty rivalries, and always focusing on the work. Yet the emotional burden of constant scrutiny was heavy. Every line she spoke, every assessment she made, was evaluated by producers, co-stars, and millions of viewers simultaneously. She became aware that her every gesture carried weight. A wrong move could spark controversy. A misunderstood comment could be misrepresented online. Even with that pressure, she didn't falter. She handled complicated valuations, answered technical questions, and politely corrected mistakes without arrogance. Her calm, intelligent presence created a quiet authority that contrasted sharply with the shop's usual chaos. Fans fell in love with her because she brought knowledge, dignity, and depth to a show that thrived on personality and comedy. By the end of her first few episodes, it was clear Rebecca was not just a temporary expert. She was a force that would leave a lasting impact on the Pawn Stars story. And while the audience adored her, the untold truth behind the cameras, the challenges, the envy, and the personal sacrifices was only beginning to unfold. Rebecca's journey was just starting, and the decisions she would make next would shape her life in ways that viewers would never expect. As Rebecca appeared more frequently on Pawn Stars, the atmosphere behind the cameras began to shift. At first, her presence was exciting, a new expert bringing legitimacy and intelligence to the show. But soon it became clear that her growing influence would disrupt the established dynamic. While fans marveled at her calm authority and deep knowledge, some of the cast and crew started to feel uneasy. The shop had always been a carefully balanced ecosystem. Corey handled the in-store antics and humor, Chumley offered comic relief, and Rick maintained control and authority. Introducing Rebecca, a quiet, brilliant expert who never needed to perform for the camera, introduced an unpredictable element. Every time she explained a rare book's value or historical significance, she captured attention effortlessly. Rick praised her judgment openly, which unintentionally made others feel overshadowed. Producers quickly recognized her star potential. Ratings rose whenever Rebecca appeared. Audience engagement skyrocketed as viewers praised her intelligence, professionalism, and unique presence. Suddenly, a guest expert became a focal point. But with that attention came pressure, not just on her, but on the cast. Corey reportedly struggled with feeling secondary in episodes that featured her, while Chumley tried to maintain his usual humor but occasionally stumbled, aware that Rebecca's serious tone contrasted sharply with his lighthearted style. The tension wasn't always overt. There were no shouting matches or public confrontations. Instead, it manifested in small, quiet ways. Missed glances, curt comments, and subtle frustration in the tone of conversations. Crew members whispered about the change in energy. One cameraman later admitted that filming scenes with Rebecca required more patience. She demanded precision, particularly when rare items were involved, and would correct mistakes immediately, regardless of who made them. Rebecca, for her part, remained steadfast. She understood the delicate balance she now occupied. Her expertise was respected, but her presence disrupted the familiar rhythm. She navigated it with grace, maintaining professionalism while setting boundaries. If a cast member made an incorrect statement about a rare book, she corrected them politely but firmly. She avoided gossip, refrained from arguments, and stayed focused on her work. But the pressure to always be correct, always be right, weighed heavily. The emotional toll of this tension became apparent over time. Rebecca often spent hours reviewing historical materials before filming, preparing meticulously to avoid errors on camera. Every episode carried stakes far beyond the show's surface entertainment value. Misidentifying an item could cause embarrassment, affect credibility, or spark criticism online. Behind the camera, she faced a silent burden that few viewers ever realized. Despite the challenges, Rebecca's contributions could not be ignored. Rick's trust in her was unwavering. When disagreements arose about valuations or authenticity, producers deferred to her judgment. Her calm decisiveness and deep knowledge often prevented costly mistakes, both on and off the air. Yet, even as she gained influence, her position was precarious. Any perceived misstep could be magnified. And resentment from cast members occasionally surfaced in subtle ways, like forced smiles during interviews or minor, sarcastic comments in between takes. Yet the most challenging aspect for Rebecca was the personal cost. She had entered the show quietly, hoping to focus on her craft, and found herself thrust into a world of scrutiny, politics, and performance. Every interaction was watched, every word evaluated, and every expression analyzed. Fame, she quickly learned, could be as isolating as it was rewarding. By the end of the second season featuring her appearances, it was clear Rebecca's presence had permanently changed Pawn Stars. She had elevated the show's credibility, attracted new audiences, and introduced a depth that hadn't existed before, but it had come at a cost. Relationships were tested, personal boundaries were challenged, and the quiet pressures behind the scenes were almost as intense as the spotlight itself. And while fans celebrated her intelligence and poise, Few understood the sacrifices she had to make to maintain her professionalism in a world that wasn't always welcoming to someone like her. As Rebecca continued to appear on Pawn Stars, it became clear that her growing role on the show was not just about knowledge, it was about choices. Every episode required her to navigate the delicate balance between authenticity and television entertainment. She had to decide when to speak, when to correct, and when to remain silent. Each decision carried consequences, both on camera and off, and each shaped her reputation with colleagues, fans, and producers alike. Rebecca was conscious of the influence she wielded. Viewers hung on her every word. When she explained a rare manuscript's value or highlighted historical significance, her calm authority lent credibility to the show. But with credibility came responsibility. Every correction or evaluation had to be precise. Any mistake could undermine her professionalism and, worse, damage the show's reputation. The pressure was immense. Behind the scenes, she faced even tougher choices. Her growing popularity stirred feelings among the cast and crew. Corey and Chumley sometimes felt overshadowed, while Rick increasingly relied on her judgment for decisions that traditionally involved only the core team. Rebecca recognized that each interaction had the potential to create tension or resentment. She could have asserted dominance, making herself the undisputed expert, but she consciously chose restraint. She wanted respect, not conflict, and she wanted to contribute without alienating others. Her decisions extended beyond professional boundaries. Rebecca became aware of how quickly rumors could spread in Hollywood. A misunderstood comment could be twisted into gossip, a neutral expression interpreted as disdain, a minor disagreement portrayed as a feud. She learned to measure her reactions carefully, even when emotions ran high. Maintaining composure required constant vigilance, and the emotional toll was significant. One pivotal moment occurred during a high-stakes appraisal of a historic collection. The item in question was a rare 18th-century document, and its value could make or break a sale for the shop. While Rick deferred to her expertise, other cast members questioned her judgment. Rebecca had two options: bend to appease them or assert her authority. She chose the latter, calmly explaining the document's authenticity, historical context, and market value. The disagreement was tense but professional, and her explanation ultimately convinced everyone, including the skeptical cast. That moment was emblematic of her journey on the show. Her choices mattered. She had to balance honesty, professionalism, and diplomacy, often simultaneously. Each appraisal, each explanation, each careful word was a test of her integrity. Fans only saw the polished final product, but the real story involved hundreds of small decisions made under pressure. These choices also shaped Rebecca's personal growth. She discovered the limits of her patience, the importance of measured communication, and the ways to maintain authority without alienating others. She realized that intelligence alone was not enough. Emotional intelligence was equally crucial. And perhaps most importantly, she understood that visibility came with scrutiny, and that every decision carried consequences she couldn't always predict. By the end of her tenure, it was clear that Rebecca's path on Pawn Stars had been defined not just by her expertise, but by the careful, thoughtful decisions she made every day. She navigated a complex environment with grace, professionalism, and insight, transforming herself from a quiet guest expert into a figure who commanded respect on and off camera, while viewers admired her knowledge and composure. Few understood the emotional and strategic complexity behind each appearance. Rebecca's story was not just about rare books, it was about resilience, intelligence, and the choices that define a career. Her journey was far from over, and the final would reveal why her presence on Pawn Stars remains unforgettable, not just for her knowledge, but for the strength and decisions that shaped every moment she spent in the spotlight. By the time Rebecca's appearances on Pawn Stars drew to a close, the audience had no idea of the emotional journey she had endured behind the cameras. Fans saw a composed, knowledgeable expert. They admired her calm demeanor, her intelligence, and her ability to command respect effortlessly. But few understood the personal cost of maintaining that image. Each episode required her to navigate scrutiny, subtle competition, and constant evaluation from both colleagues and producers. The truth was, Rebecca had made sacrifices most viewers could never see. Every time she entered the shop, she carried the weight of expectations, not just from the audience, but from the show itself. She had to be correct, articulate, and professional, all while managing the sensitivities of the cast, the pressures of production, and the occasional envy or resentment simmering behind the cameras. One wrong move, one misstatement, could have undermined her credibility or fueled rumors. Despite the pressure, Rebecca never faltered. She chose integrity over convenience, honesty over popularity, and professionalism over drama. Her presence on the show was quietly transformative. She elevated the way appraisals were conducted, raised standards for authenticity, and demonstrated that knowledge and calm authority could be just as compelling on screen as humor and theatrics. Yet there was a deeper, more personal story. Rebecca wasn't seeking fame, but the exposure brought both opportunity and scrutiny. She had to decide how much of herself to reveal, how much to protect, and when to step back entirely. That decision eventually led her to limit appearances, prioritizing personal growth, privacy, and career trajectory over public recognition. Few fans realized that behind her graceful composure lay deliberate choices to protect her well-being, her reputation, and her professional integrity. Her impact on the show was undeniable. The episodes she appeared in drew higher ratings, longer viewer engagement, and a level of authenticity rarely achieved in reality television. Producers recognized her value, but Rebecca never allowed herself to be commodified. She set boundaries that maintained her dignity and preserved her credibility, choices that, while unseen, defined her influence more than any on-camera moment could. Even as she stepped away, Rebecca's presence continued to shape the show. Her insistence on accuracy, her calm authority, and her unwavering professionalism set a benchmark for future guest experts. She proved that expertise combined with poise could captivate audiences as much as flamboyance or dramatics, perhaps. The most remarkable part of her story is the resilience she displayed. Navigating a world of cameras, ego, and competition was not easy, yet she remained true to herself. She handled challenges gracefully, corrected missteps politely, and avoided becoming entangled in conflicts. Her journey was a lesson in emotional intelligence, patience. Her journey was a lesson in emotional intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking. The untold truth about Rebecca is this: she transformed an ordinary guest role into a lasting legacy. She showed that quiet competence, knowledge, and integrity can leave a profound impact even in a world built on spectacle. She balanced visibility with discretion, influence with humility, and professionalism with humanity. Fans may remember her for her expertise, but those who look closer see the deeper story: the courage to maintain authenticity under pressure, the wisdom to choose when to step back, and the strength to navigate a complicated environment without compromising her values. Rebecca's story reminds us that behind every familiar face on television, there's often a hidden journey of struggle, choice, and resilience. And while her time on Pawn Stars may have ended, the lessons she embodied, the dedication, intelligence, and poise continue to inspire, long after the cameras have stopped rolling.